This is the 93rd episode of the Effective Executive podcast and YouTube channel. And I named this episode A Bold Prediction for 2023. And I hit upon this subject back in January around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Things that have been running around, especially publicly traded organizations and governments. And I, as far as governments go, I'll leave that off to the side. But the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff, the way I've been seeing it played out is more that there's an exclusion as opposed to an inclusion in organizations now. And we're not promoting the type of diversity that is going to propel an organization forward. It has to be the diversity of thought. And, we're also sacrificing equity, with the loss of effectiveness. Not everybody's equal, and some people have the skill sets that you need in organizations, and so those are the people that you need to hire. And we look at ESG, we got environmental, social, and governance, and all of this has become a real mess for the oil companies and some of the things that um, you know organizations like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street have been supposedly representing their investors, but they're actually in conflict with their investors, and I think there's a movement right now in Congress to make sure that the investors are the ones voting and not these ESG folks in BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street that get on these boards and put in a bunch of policies that doesn't really even have anything to do with the business in many cases, or in the case of oil companies, they've really made a mess of things by, hey, we're signed up for being an ESG company, and we got to back off the amount of fossil fuels that we have in an environment where Russia invades Ukraine, and now we need that oil. And I don't want to hear about the price gouging phony message. Is just unbelievable to me that anybody in business, especially, would believe that particular line. I mean, Apple and Microsoft and a number of companies, Google, all make more money than oil companies. If you subtracted out, and I did the calculations, if you calculated took oil companies back to zero profit, you would say 5 cents a gallon. And, the federal government has 18 cents a gallon in taxes. And, it's just a really phony argument. And for people, I guess, who are advocating for socialism, maybe that's a great argument for you, but it doesn't hold any water. So anyway, this ESG DEI thing has dominated the consulting and cultural realms of publicly traded companies for a while, and I've been watching this, within organizations, and I don't see anything that helps an organization become more effective, from it. I'm not saying there aren't some good things that potentially can come out of it. It's just that you have to sift through a whole bunch of baloney before you get to those things. So it has damaging consequences because resources are being sucked up by focusing in on DEI and ESG. And I always get concerned when a support group, whether it's IT or HR or any finance, get in the middle of operations and saying, well, you need to do it this way, when they've never actually done the operation. So a lot of this is coming from this, support areas as opposed to, where the core operations are happening in organizations. But now we're starting to see the emergence of pushback from, uh, first of all, you're going to see it in politicians. You saw Ron DeSantis and the Disney conflict. You've seen it with Elon Musk, and buying Twitter and putting free speech back in, where we're supposed to be, great diversity, but we'll exclude those people because they don't think like us. Um, Vivek Ramaswamy and Peter Thiel putting together, hey, let's focus back on the idea of business as opposed to focusing in on things that really aren't propelling an organization to be more competitive. I mean, if I were China or Russia or any of our competitors, I would be going, yeah, do that. That's a great thing to do because it just is adding costs to the way we do things in the sake of something that shouldn't be mandated, but should be part of the way that you do business. And you can design some of these things in without going to such excess that it's hurting your operations within your company. And I think companies are starting to recognize it. You recently saw Netflix that basically said, look, if we're going to sell shows and movies and things of that sort for people to stream, we got to hit a broader audience, just the people that want to exclude everybody. You've now had Kraken CEO has come out and said basically, hey, if this doesn't fit, then maybe this isn't the place for you. And I have a feeling that Elon Musk will probably be doing the same thing. But regardless, so what about 2023 and my bold prediction? Well, it's basically the lipstick on this pig is going to come off, and there's going to be a huge backlash associated with this because such a small percentage of people are running it and advocating for it, and they have no idea how a business runs. In many cases, they're just advocating virtue signaling types of atmospheres, and I see as one of my most popular episodes on YouTube is where I've talked about to prepare for a depression, an economic depression, and whether it's a deep recession or a depression, by 2023, all this stuff is going to go away because the resources that are being sucked up by ESG and DEI are now going to be needed to actually compete in a world in which, we need products and services that actually can deliver to, the world, basically. And, putting a boat anchor around our necks, our corporate necks, in spending resources that don't make you any more effective as an organization. And if they are, great, keep those things, but get rid of some of the other stuff that's holding back, and be real about what's happening, from a system standpoint about, is it making you more competitive? Because some of this stuff is just baloney. So it's forced being able to compete with the Chinas and the world stage. They don't worry about any of this stuff. And we're supposed to be a better country. If it propels us to be more competitive, do it. But if it's not, then it needs to be stopped. And much of the things I'm seeing here are checking boxes of things. It's almost like ISO 9000 when it first came out. You're just checking a box and saying, yeah, I did that and I did that. And it's like government regulations too on companies. So anyway, I think all this disappears. And that's my bold prediction for 2023. Because companies are going to be too worried about trying to even survive as opposed to, worried about hurting somebody's feelings or, you know, I got to hire this person, even though they're not the best person, they fit a box that I have to check. And I think that those are just really dangerous things for your ability to be competitive. So that's my message this week, and that is my prediction. And remember, there is always a better way.